Welcome, dear viewers, to our channel where every story has a secret and every mystery has meaning. We take you beyond the headlines and deep into the truth that time has buried. Get ready to see the world like never before. Now we explain the Byzantine Empire, the Eastern legacy of Rome. The Byzantine Empire, also known as the Eastern Roman Empire, stood as one of the longest-lasting and most influential civilizations in world history. Emerging from the eastern provinces of the Roman Empire, it carried on the imperial legacy for more than 1,000 years after the fall of Rome in the west. Its capital, Constantinople, became a beacon of wealth, culture, religion, and strategic importance. The Byzantine world served as the bridge between antiquity and the modern era, preserving classical knowledge, Roman law, and Greek philosophy, while shaping the spiritual and political fabric of medieval Europe and the Near East. To understand the Byzantine Empire is to trace a continuous thread from the grandeur of ancient Rome to the dawn of the Renaissance, from pagan temples to Christian cathedrals, and from imperial legions to medieval knights. The origins of the Byzantine Empire are deeply rooted in the transformation of the Roman world. In the 3rd century, the Roman Empire faced immense challenges: political instability, economic decline, military pressures, and administrative inefficiency. To address these crises, Emperor Diocletian in the late 3rd century decided to divide the empire into two parts: the Western Roman Empire, with Rome as its capital, and the Eastern Roman Empire, with its administrative center in Nicomedia. This division was meant to make governance more efficient, but eventually led to the emergence of two distinct political and cultural entities. The East, richer and more urbanized, had greater resources, stronger defenses, and more stable borders. When Emperor Constantine the Great came to power in the early 4th century, he recognized the potential of the East and decided to establish a new imperial capital there. In 330 CE, Constantine founded Constantinople on the site of the ancient Greek city of Byzantium. Strategically located on the Bosporus Strait, the city lay at the crossroads of Europe and Asia, commanding the trade routes between the Black Sea and the Mediterranean. It was easily defensible, surrounded by water on 3 sides and protected by formidable walls. Constantine envisioned his new city as a new Rome, adorned with grand palaces, churches, forums, and public spaces that rivaled those of the ancient capital. Unlike Old Rome, however, Constantinople reflected a new Christian identity, for Constantine himself was the first Roman emperor to embrace Christianity. With his conversion and the Edict of Milan in 313 CE granting religious tolerance, Christianity began to flourish across the empire, transforming its culture and politics. After Constantine's death, the empire faced renewed challenges, but the Eastern Roman state continued to thrive even as the Western Empire descended into chaos. In the 5th century, the Western Roman Empire fell to barbarian invasions: Visigoths, Vandals, Ostrogoths, and others, culminating in the deposition of the last Western emperor, Romulus Augustulus, in 476 CE. Yet in the East, the Roman Empire endured. The Byzantines did not consider themselves separate from Rome. They called themselves Romans, or Romoe, and viewed their empire as the continuation of the ancient Roman state. Latin remained the official administrative language for centuries, even as Greek gradually became dominant in everyday life and intellectual culture. The Byzantine Empire inherited not only Roman institutions, but also a complex mixture of cultures. Its territories stretched from the Balkans and Greece to Asia Minor, Syria, Egypt, and North Africa. These lands contained a mosaic of peoples: Greeks, Armenians, Slavs, Syrians, Copts, and Arabs, each contributing to the empire's diversity. The imperial government, however, maintained a strong centralized administration.
The emperor stood at the apex of both political and religious authority, ruling as God's representative on earth. This idea of divine kingship, rooted in Roman imperial ideology and Christian theology, gave the Byzantine emperor an almost sacred status. During the reign of Emperor Justinian I, 527 to 565 CE, the Byzantine Empire reached the height of its early power and glory. Justinian was a visionary ruler who sought to restore the Roman Empire's greatness by reconquering lost territories, codifying Roman law, and beautifying Constantinople with magnificent architecture. Under his general Belisarius, the Byzantine armies recaptured North Africa from the Vandals, Italy from the Ostrogoths, and parts of Spain from the Visigoths. These campaigns temporarily reunited the Mediterranean under imperial control, though at great cost. Justinian's most enduring legacy, however, was not his military conquests, but his legal and architectural achievements. He commissioned the Corpus Juris Civilis, the body of civil law, which systematized centuries of Roman legal thought into a coherent code. This collection became the foundation of modern legal systems in Europe. In architecture, Justinian's crowning achievement was the construction of the Hagia Sophia, the great cathedral of Constantinople, completed in 537 CE. With its massive dome seemingly suspended in air, the Hagia Sophia stood as the most remarkable architectural masterpiece of its age, symbolizing the unity of heaven and earth. Yet Justinian's reign was also marked by challenges and tragedy. In 532 CE, the Nika riots erupted in Constantinople, nearly overthrowing his regime. Tens of thousands perished as the city burned. Later, a devastating plague struck the empire, killing millions and weakening the economy. Despite these setbacks, the empire under Justinian remained the most powerful state in the Mediterranean world. After Justinian's death, the Byzantine Empire entered a period of crisis. The reconquered Western territories proved difficult to hold, and new enemies emerged. In the 7th century, the empire faced the rising power of Islam. The Arab conquest swept through the Middle East and North Africa, seizing Syria, Egypt, and much of Persia, territories that had been the richest provinces of the Byzantine world. These losses permanently altered the empire's character, transforming it from a vast Mediterranean power into a more compact, primarily Greek-speaking state centered on Anatolia and the Balkans.
To survive these turbulent times, the Byzantines adapted. They reorganized their military and administrative structures through the theme system, in which provinces, themes, were governed by military officials who combined civil and military authority. This innovation allowed for more efficient defense and local governance. The empire also relied heavily on its navy, which used a secret weapon known as Greek fire, a flammable liquid that could burn even on water, to defend Constantinople from sieges. The capital itself, fortified by the Theodosian walls, withstood repeated assaults from Persians, Arabs, Bulgars, and later Rus invaders. Religion continued to play a central role in Byzantine life. The empire saw itself as the guardian of Orthodox Christianity, and the relationship between the emperor and the church became a defining feature of Byzantine civilization. This concept, known as Caesaropapism, meant that the emperor exercised authority over both the state and the church. Patriarchs of Constantinople held spiritual power, but the emperor often influenced religious doctrine and policy. This fusion of church and state distinguished Byzantium from Western Europe, where the papacy evolved into a more independent force. The Byzantine religious tradition developed its own distinctive theology, art, and liturgy. Icons, holy images of Christ, the Virgin Mary, and the saints, became central to worship and devotion. Yet they also sparked deep controversy. In the 8th and 9th centuries, the empire was torn by the iconoclast controversy, during which emperors sought to ban the use of icons, viewing them as idolatrous. This conflict divided society and weakened the empire, but ultimately the veneration of icons was restored and became a defining element of Eastern Orthodoxy.
By the 9th century, the Byzantine Empire experienced a revival known as the Macedonian Renaissance. Under the Macedonian dynasty, beginning with Basil I in 867 CE, the empire regained strength, expanded its borders, and fostered a flourishing of art, literature, and scholarship. Constantinople once again became the cultural and intellectual heart of the Christian world. The Byzantines preserved classical Greek texts, studied ancient philosophy, and advanced in theology, science, and diplomacy. The Macedonian emperors also achieved military success. Under Basil II, known as the Bulgar Slayer, the empire reached its greatest territorial extent in centuries, subduing Bulgaria and consolidating control over much of the Balkans. Basil II's reign marked the zenith of Byzantine power in the Middle Ages. However, after his death in 1025, internal strife, corruption, and weak leadership began to erode the empire's stability. Despite these challenges, the Byzantine Empire's resilience was remarkable. Its ability to adapt, politically, militarily, and culturally, allowed it to endure for over 1,000 years. It served as a bulwark against invasions from the east and as a custodian of Greco-Roman civilization. Its cities were centers of trade and learning, its diplomacy was sophisticated, and its cultural legacy profound. Constantinople's influence reached far beyond its walls, shaping the development of Eastern Europe, Russia, and the Islamic world. By the late 11th century, however, the Byzantine world faced new dangers. The rise of the Seljuk Turks in Asia Minor posed a serious threat, leading to the loss of the empire's heartland. In desperation, Emperor Alexios I Komnenos appealed to the West for military assistance, setting in motion the events that would lead to the First Crusade. Although the Crusaders initially helped Byzantium recover some territory, they also introduced new tensions between Eastern and Western Christendom. The rivalry between the Orthodox East and Catholic West, long simmering, would soon reach a breaking point. This first phase of Byzantine history, spanning from Constantine's founding of Constantinople to the beginning of the Crusades, illustrates the empire's extraordinary endurance and transformation. It evolved from a Roman state into a distinctively Christian and Greek civilization, blending ancient heritage with medieval innovation. Through wars, plagues, theological debates, and cultural renaissances, Byzantium stood as a luminous bridge between the classical world and the modern age.
As the 11th century drew to a close, the Byzantine Empire stood at a critical crossroads in its long and complex history. Centuries of survival had honed its political and military systems, but new forces were emerging that would transform both its destiny and the destiny of medieval Europe. The call for help made by Emperor Alexios I Komnenos to the Pope in Rome in 1095 was an act of desperation and diplomacy combined. The Seljuk Turks had dealt the empire a crushing defeat at the Battle of Manzikert in 1071, which had cost Byzantium most of its Anatolian heartland, the economic and military core of the empire. The loss of Anatolia not only deprived Constantinople of crucial tax revenues and manpower, but also exposed the empire's remaining territories to continuous raids and invasions. When Alexios sought Western assistance, he hoped for disciplined mercenaries to help him reclaim lost lands. What he received instead was an unprecedented wave of armed pilgrims known as the Crusaders. The First Crusade, launched under Pope Urban II's proclamation, brought thousands of knights, soldiers, and peasants from Western Europe to the east. The relationship between the Byzantines and these Western Crusaders was uneasy from the start. The Byzantines, proud of their civilization and diplomatic sophistication, viewed the Latin knights as uncouth and unpredictable. The Crusaders, in turn, often regarded the Byzantines as effeminate, deceitful, and overly cautious. Despite mutual mistrust, Alexios skillfully used the Crusaders' military might to his advantage.
Through careful negotiation and diplomacy, he managed to recover key territories such as Nicaea and parts of western Anatolia. The Crusaders went on to capture Antioch and, in 1099, Jerusalem, establishing a series of Crusader states in the Levant. Though these states nominally owed allegiance to the Byzantine emperor, in practice they operated independently, setting the stage for centuries of tension between the empire and the Latin West. The Komnenian dynasty, founded by Alexios I, ushered in a remarkable period of recovery and stability. His successors, John II Komnenos and Manuel II Komnenos, continued his efforts to strengthen the empire through administrative reforms, military discipline, and diplomatic marriages. The Komnenoi skillfully balanced relations with neighboring powers, including the Western kingdoms, the Crusader states, and the Islamic world. Under their rule, the Byzantine Empire enjoyed an economic revival. Trade flourished, cities prospered, and the cultural life of Constantinople experienced new vitality. The empire maintained an intricate network of alliances and vassal states, using diplomacy as much as military strength to maintain its influence. Yet beneath this surface of prosperity, new challenges brewed. The growing power of the Italian maritime republics, Venice, Genoa, and Pisa, began to reshape the Mediterranean economy. Byzantium, lacking a powerful navy of its own, increasingly relied on Venetian fleets to defend its trade routes. In exchange, the Venetians gained extensive commercial privileges in Constantinople and other ports, effectively controlling much of the empire's maritime commerce. While this arrangement initially benefited both sides, it gradually eroded Byzantine independence. The wealth and arrogance of Venetian merchants provoked deep resentment among the local population and the imperial administration.
Religious tensions between East and West also intensified during this period. The Great Schism of 1054 had formally divided the Christian Church into the Roman Catholic and Eastern Orthodox branches. The schism was not caused by a single event, but by centuries of doctrinal disputes, cultural differences, and political rivalry. Issues such as the use of unleavened bread in the Eucharist, the authority of the Pope, and the wording of the Nicene Creed had long fueled disagreements. When papal and patriarchal envoys exchanged excommunications in 1054, it symbolized the culmination of this estrangement. Although there were occasional attempts at reconciliation, the wounds ran deep. The Crusades further widened the divide, as Latin Crusaders often treated their Eastern Christian hosts with suspicion and contempt. Under Manuel I Komnenos, the Byzantine Empire reached one last moment of grandeur. Manuel was a charismatic and ambitious ruler who sought to restore Byzantium's preeminence in the Mediterranean world. He launched campaigns in the Balkans, Italy, and the Levant, seeking to assert imperial authority over both Eastern and Western Christian territories. He maintained lavish courts, patronized artists and scholars, and cultivated an image of imperial magnificence reminiscent of the old Roman emperors. But his costly wars and extravagant diplomacy strained the empire's finances and overextended its resources. After his death in 1180, the empire entered a new phase of decline. The late 12th century was marked by internal turmoil and external threats. Weak rulers, factional rivalries, and court intrigues undermined the stability that the Komnenian dynasty had built. The powerful aristocracy began to reassert itself, carving out regional fiefdoms that weakened central authority. At the same time, the Western Crusaders, once allies, became potential enemies. Their attention shifted from the Holy Land to the wealth of Constantinople itself. The culmination of these tensions came with the tragic events of the Fourth Crusade. In 1204, the Fourth Crusade, originally intended to conquer Muslim-controlled Egypt, was diverted towards Constantinople under the influence of Venetian interests and Western politics. The Crusaders, heavily indebted to Venice, agreed to attack the Christian city as part of a deal with the exiled Byzantine prince Alexios Angelos, who promised them payment and church unity in exchange for help in regaining his throne. When the Crusaders captured Constantinople, they unleashed one of the most devastating sacks in medieval history. For 3 days, they plundered the city, desecrating churches, destroying monuments, and looting priceless treasures accumulated over centuries. The Hagia Sophia was stripped of its sacred relics, libraries were burned, and priceless works of art were melted down for gold and silver. The Byzantine Empire,
already weakened by internal decay, suffered a blow from which it would never fully recover.
After the sack, the Crusaders established the Latin Empire of Constantinople, dividing Byzantine territories among themselves. The Venetians took control of key ports and islands, while Western nobles carved out principalities in Greece and Asia Minor. Yet, the Byzantine spirit proved resilient. In exile, 3 successor states emerged: the Empire of Nicaea, the Despotates of Epirus, and the Empire of Trebizond. Among these, the Empire of Nicaea, founded by Theodore I Lascaris, became the main center of resistance and cultural continuity. Over the next half-century, the emperors of Nicaea worked tirelessly to restore the empire, maintaining orthodox traditions, rebuilding administrative structures, and reclaiming lost lands. In 1261, under Emperor Michael VIII Palaiologos, the Byzantines succeeded in recapturing Constantinople, ending the Latin occupation. The restoration of the empire was greeted with joy and pride, but the city that Michael reclaimed was a shadow of its former self. The once glorious capital lay in ruins, its population diminished, its treasury empty, and its defenses weakened. Michael VIII attempted to rebuild the empire's prestige through diplomacy, marriage alliances, and cautious engagement with the West. However, the Byzantine Empire of the late 13th century was no longer the formidable power it had once been. It faced constant threats from rising regional states, particularly the Serbians and Bulgarians in the Balkans and the new Turkish Emiratis in Anatolia. The economic situation worsened as trade remained dominated by the Italian maritime republics, whose commercial privileges further drained the empire's wealth. The Venetians and Genoese competed for control of Byzantine ports, often turning Constantinople into a battleground for their rivalries. The Byzantine emperors, lacking the resources to maintain a strong navy, were forced to play one side against the other, granting concessions that undermined their own sovereignty. At the same time, social inequality deepened, with the landed aristocracy enriching itself while the peasantry suffered under heavy taxation. The once flourishing urban middle class diminished, and economic stagnation became chronic. Culturally, however, Byzantium experienced a remarkable revival during this troubled period. The Palaiologan Renaissance, named after the ruling dynasty, witnessed a resurgence of intellectual and artistic creativity. Scholars in Constantinople and other centers of learning studied classical Greek texts, commented on Aristotle and Plato, and developed sophisticated theological and philosophical thought. Byzantine artists produced exquisite mosaics, icons, and manuscripts that reflected both spiritual devotion and technical mastery. This late flowering of Byzantine culture would later influence the Renaissance in Italy, as many Greek scholars fled westward after the fall of Constantinople, carrying with them the knowledge of ancient Greece. The political landscape of the 14th century was dominated by instability and civil war. Succession disputes, aristocratic revolts, and religious controversies further weakened the empire. One of the most divisive issues was the Hesychast controversy, a theological debate within the Orthodox Church concerning the nature of divine experience. Though primarily a religious matter, it reflected broader political and social divisions within Byzantine society. Meanwhile, external threats multiplied. The Serbian Empire under Stefan Dusan emerged as a major rival, conquering much of Macedonia and Greece. To the east, the Ottoman Turks, a small Anatolian principality that had begun as a frontier emirate, rapidly expanded their power under the leadership of Osman I and his successors. The rise of the Ottoman Turks proved to be the most decisive factor in the final downfall of Byzantium. The Ottomans were skilled warriors and shrewd politicians who combined military discipline with strategic alliances. They gradually absorbed the remaining Byzantine territories in Asia Minor and pushed into Europe, crossing the Dardanelles and establishing a foothold in the Balkans. In 1354, they captured Gallipoli, giving them a permanent base on European soil. The Byzantine Empire, reduced to little more than the city of Constantinople and a few scattered territories, could do little to resist. The emperors appealed repeatedly to the West for help,
offering promises of church union in exchange for military aid. But Western support was inconsistent and often came with conditions that the Orthodox clergy and populace rejected. During the reign of Emperor John V Palaiologos, the empire became increasingly dependent on its neighbors for survival. John traveled to Rome and even converted to Catholicism in hopes of securing Western support, but his efforts yielded little tangible aid. The empire's internal divisions deepened, and its financial situation became desperate. The emperors mortgaged the empire's treasures, and Constantinople's defenses deteriorated. By the early 15th century, the Byzantine Empire was effectively a vassal state of the Ottomans, paying tribute and relying on their goodwill to maintain a fragile existence. Nevertheless, even in its decline, Byzantium retained a profound sense of identity and spiritual purpose. The Orthodox faith remained the cornerstone of Byzantine culture, shaping its art, literature, and worldview. The church continued to serve as a source of unity and continuity amid political decay. Monasteries preserved learning and piety, while theologians and philosophers engaged in deep contemplation about the nature of divine grace and human destiny. Constantinople, though diminished, remained a center of scholarship and craftsmanship, producing icons, manuscripts, and liturgical music of extraordinary beauty. As the 15th century progressed, the Ottoman threat became existential. Sultan Ramad II besieged Constantinople in 1422, but failed to capture it. His successor, Mehmed II, however, was determined to complete the conquest that had eluded his predecessors. Young, ambitious, and highly educated, Mehmed saw himself as a world conqueror destined to claim the legacy of Rome. He built a powerful navy, reorganized his army, and constructed massive cannons capable of breaching the city's formidable walls. The Byzantine emperor at the time, Constantine XI Palaiologos, faced this final challenge with courage but limited means. The empire had neither the manpower nor the resources to withstand a prolonged siege, yet its people prepared to defend their ancient capital with unwavering faith. Thus, by the mid-15th century, the Byzantine Empire stood on the brink of extinction. What had once been the richest and most powerful empire in the medieval world was reduced to a single city, surrounded by enemies. Yet even in this twilight, the Byzantine spirit endured, resilient, cultured, and deeply devoted to its traditions. The final act of its thousand-year story was about to unfold, a moment that would mark not only the end of Byzantium, but also the dawn of a new era in world history.
As the 15th century advanced, the Byzantine Empire lingered as a pale shadow of its once glorious self. Yet within the decaying walls of Constantinople, there remained a spirit of endurance that seemed to defy time. The city, with its ancient domes and crumbling palaces, still stood as a symbol of the Roman legacy in the East. Its streets echoed with the chants of Orthodox priests, its scholars continued to copy and study ancient manuscripts, and its emperors still carried the titles of Augustus and Autocrat of the Romans. But beyond its fortified walls, the world had changed. The rise of the Ottoman Empire under Sultan Mehmed II transformed the balance of power across the Eastern Mediterranean. The Ottomans were no longer a frontier emirate, they were a disciplined and centralized state with a formidable army and fleet. Mehmed's ambition was not merely to conquer a city, but to claim the mantle of the Caesars and establish a new empire that would unite East and West under his rule. In the early months of 1453, Mehmed prepared for the siege that would end a millennium of Byzantine history. His forces, estimated at over 100,000 men, included elite janissaries, cavalry, artillery, and engineers. He had learned from the failures of previous Ottoman sieges, and he brought with him new technologies that would change the nature of warfare. Among his most formidable weapons were the giant cannons cast by the Hungarian engineer Urban, capable of hurling massive stone balls against the walls of Constantinople. The city's defenders, numbering perhaps 7,000 soldiers and volunteers, faced impossible odds. Emperor Constantine XI Palaiologos, the last of the Byzantine emperors, stood as both a ruler and a soldier, determined to die defending his capital rather than surrender to the invader. The siege began in April 1453. For weeks, the Ottomans bombarded the city's walls day and night while their navy blockaded the Golden Horn, cutting off all hope of reinforcements or supplies. Despite their small numbers, the defenders fought valiantly. The city's ancient Theodosian walls, which had withstood countless assaults over the centuries, held firm against the enemy's onslaught. Greek, Genoese, and Venetian soldiers fought side by side, united by desperation, if not by faith. Within the city, morale fluctuated between hope and despair. Religious processions wound through the streets, carrying relics and icons as the people prayed for divine intervention. Emperor Constantine moved tirelessly among his troops, inspiring them with words of courage and devotion. He was fully aware that the fall of Constantinople would mean not only the end of an empire, but the end of a civilization that had endured for more than 1,000 years. The decisive assault came on May 29, 1453. Before dawn, the Ottomans launched a massive attack from land and sea. Waves of soldiers hurled themselves against the walls, only to be repelled by the defenders. But the relentless bombardment had already weakened the fortifications, and at last a breach was opened near the gate of St. Romanus. Through this gap poured the Janissaries, the elite Ottoman infantry. Emperor Constantine fought at the forefront of his men, wielding his sword and rallying his troops. According to chroniclers, when he saw that the battle was lost, he cast off his imperial regalia and charged into the fray, disappearing in the chaos of combat. His body was never definitively identified, and his death became a legend, symbolizing the tragic heroism of Byzantium's final hour.
When the fighting ended, the city that had been the jewel of the Christian East lay in ruins. Ottoman soldiers looted its treasures, and the sounds of victory echoed through its streets. Sultan Mehmed entered Constantinople in triumph, riding through the shattered gates that had once symbolized the power of Rome. Upon entering the Hagia Sophia, he ordered it to be converted into a mosque, marking the city's transformation from a Christian to an Islamic capital. Standing beneath the vast dome of the great church, Mehmed is said to have recited a line from Persian poetry, lamenting the impermanence of worldly glory. Though he was a conqueror, he treated the city with a vision that went beyond destruction. He proclaimed himself the new Caesar, the ruler of a revived empire that would merge the heritage of Byzantium with the might of Islam. Constantinople was renamed Istanbul, and it became the heart of the Ottoman Empire for centuries to come. The fall of Constantinople in 1453 sent shockwaves throughout the Christian world. In Western Europe, the news was received with a mixture of horror, sorrow, and fear. For many, it marked the end of the medieval era and the beginning of a new age of exploration and change. The collapse of the Byzantine Empire severed Europe's last link with the ancient Roman world. Yet, in another sense, Byzantium did not truly die. Its intellectual, artistic, and spiritual legacy lived on, influencing the Renaissance, shaping Orthodox Christianity, and laying foundations that would endure long after its political power had vanished. One of the most immediate effects of Byzantium's fall was the migration of Greek scholars to Western Europe. Fleeing the advancing Ottomans, many intellectuals carried with them precious manuscripts, classical texts, and centuries of accumulated knowledge. These emigres found refuge in Italy, where their mastery of Greek language and philosophy helped ignite the Renaissance. They taught Latin scholars how to read Plato and Aristotle in their original forms, reintroducing Europe to the forgotten wisdom of antiquity. Figures such as George Gemistos Platon, John Argypolos, and Bessarion became instrumental in transmitting Byzantine learning to the West. The revival of humanism, the rediscovery of classical art, and the birth of modern science all owed a debt to this transfer of knowledge from the fallen empire.
In the East, the legacy of Byzantium continued in a different form. The Orthodox Church, though deprived of its political protector, survived under Ottoman rule. The Patriarchate of Constantinople was re-established, and the Patriarch was recognized by the Sultan as the head of the Orthodox Christian millet, or religious community. Within this system, the Church retained authority over its followers in matters of faith, education, and personal law. This arrangement allowed the Orthodox faith to endure despite centuries of foreign domination. The monks of Mount Athos and other holy sites preserved theological traditions, liturgical practices, and artistic styles that remained deeply rooted in Byzantine spirituality. Byzantium's cultural and artistic achievements also left a lasting imprint on neighboring civilizations. Its architecture, characterized by domed churches, mosaics, and intricate iconography, influenced both Eastern Orthodox and Islamic art. The Hagia Sophia became the architectural model for countless Ottoman mosques, including the famous Süleymaniye and Blue Mosques of Istanbul. Byzantine music, with its distinctive modes and chants, continued to shape the liturgical soundscape of Orthodox worship. In literature, Byzantine chronicles, saints' lives, and theological treatises preserved a worldview that blended classical learning with Christian faith. Even after its political disappearance, Byzantium remained a vital cultural force that shaped the imagination of both East and West.
The Byzantine political system, often dismissed as complex and decadent by Western historians, in reality represented one of the most enduring and adaptable forms of governance in history. Its centralized bureaucracy, merit-based administration, and intricate diplomacy allowed it to survive for over a millennium in a volatile region. The empire's system of alliances, marriages, and treaties, its so-called Byzantine diplomacy, became a model of subtle statecraft. Through negotiation, tribute, and calculated compromise, the Byzantines managed to maintain their independence against powerful adversaries. Their use of intelligence networks, psychological warfare, and economic incentives anticipated many modern principles of international relations. Even the term Byzantine, though often used pejoratively to describe complexity or intrigue, reflects the empire's extraordinary sophistication in political management. The Byzantine Empire also made enduring contributions to law, religion, and education. The legal code compiled under Emperor Justinian I in the 6th century remained the foundation of European legal thought for centuries. Known as the Corpus Juris Civilis, it was rediscovered in the West during the Middle Ages and became the basis for the development of modern civil law in many countries. In religion, Byzantine theology shaped the doctrines of Eastern Orthodoxy and influenced Christian mysticism. Thinkers such as Gregory of Nyssa, John Chrysostom, and Maximus the Confessor developed profound insights into the nature of God, humanity, and salvation. Their writings continue to inspire theologians and philosophers today. In education, the Byzantine system of schooling preserved classical Greek literature, philosophy, and science through a network of academies, monasteries, and private tutors. Without Byzantine's guardianship, much of the intellectual heritage of ancient Greece might have been lost. Beyond its intellectual and political influence, Byzantium played a crucial role in shaping the geography of faith and power across Europe and Asia. Through its missionary activity, it brought Christianity to the Slavic peoples of Eastern Europe. The brothers Cyril and Methodius, Byzantine monks and linguists, created the Glagolitic alphabet, later evolving into the Cyrillic script, allowing Slavic languages to be written and their people to be evangelized. The conversion of the Kievan Rus in the 10th century, under Prince Vladimir, established Orthodoxy as the dominant faith in Russia and Eastern Europe. Moscow, in time, came to see itself as the Third Rome, inheriting the spiritual authority of Constantinople after its fall. The idea of a divinely guided Christian empire thus persisted, reshaped by geography and history, but deeply rooted in the Byzantine tradition. The fall of Constantinople also transformed global trade and exploration. With the Ottoman conquest, traditional land routes between Europe and Asia became more difficult and expensive. This disruption encouraged Western nations to seek new maritime routes to the east, leading directly to the Age of Discovery. Portuguese and Spanish explorers, driven by the desire to bypass Ottoman-controlled trade networks, set sail across the oceans. In this way, the end of Byzantium indirectly opened the path to a new global era of exploration, colonization, and exchange. The fall of the Eastern Roman Empire thus marked both an end and a beginning, a sunset that heralded a new dawn in world history.
In memory and imagination, Byzantium continued to fascinate scholars, artists, and rulers. In the centuries that followed its fall, Western historians often portrayed it through conflicting lenses. Some viewed it as a decayed remnant of ancient Rome, others as a glittering bastion of Christian civilization. The truth lies somewhere between these extremes. Byzantium was neither wholly classical nor wholly medieval. It was a world of transition, synthesis, and endurance. Its people saw themselves not as relics of the past, but as participants in a divine history that linked the earthly realm to the eternal. The emperor's palace, the patriarch's cathedral, and the scholar's library all reflected this vision of harmony between heaven and earth. In modern scholarship, Byzantium has gained renewed recognition as a bridge between civilizations. It connected the ancient and medieval worlds, Europe and Asia, Christianity and Islam. Its art inspired Renaissance painters, its architecture influenced Islamic builders, and its political thought shaped later empires. The Byzantine ideal of a sacred empire, where faith and state, beauty and order, reason and revelation were intertwined, continues to echo through history. Even today, the domes of Orthodox churches and the chants of their liturgies evoke the grandeur of a world that refused to vanish completely. The legacy of Byzantium also endures in the modern nations that arose from its territories. Greece, Bulgaria, Serbia, Romania, and Russia all draw upon Byzantine cultural and religious roots. The Orthodox Church remains a living institution, preserving the spiritual and liturgical traditions developed in Constantinople more than 1,000 years ago. In Turkey, the remnants of Byzantine architecture, from the Hagia Sophia to the city walls of Istanbul, stand as silent witnesses to a shared past that transcends national boundaries. The very idea of Europe as a cultural and historical entity owes much to the synthesis of Greek, Roman, and Christian elements that Byzantium embodied. To study the Byzantine Empire is to encounter one of humanity's most extraordinary stories of endurance. For over a millennium, it preserved the heritage of Rome, adapted to changing times, and shaped the course of civilizations. It survived invasions, plagues, religious schisms, and countless internal crises, yet it continued to produce art, philosophy, and theology of enduring brilliance. Its fall in 1453 was not merely a political event, but a civilizational transformation that reshaped the world. The empire that began with Constantine's vision of a Christian Rome ended with Constantine XI's heroic death on the walls of Constantinople. Between these two moments lies 1,000 years of human creativity, faith, and resilience, a testament to the enduring power of ideas, culture, and belief.